But we've only heard band-aids and maybe tossing some money towards it. Do you have any long-term solutions in your mind that could solve these problems? We'll start with Erica.
Thank you. You know, I think we need to look at a variety of factors. We also need to look at issues regarding truck weights, especially for those of us down here in Southeast Michigan. You know, and when I say that, I mean the in-state truck weights. We have to address that because the ones that are going out of state, they're not offloading their cargo right before they cross the border, whether it's from Ohio or Indiana or Wisconsin, there, so that their weights are different when they cross into the states with lower weights. So that's something we have to really look at. We also need to look at what is the mix of materials that we're using in the roads. There is no reason why, if we're using the same materials as our friends just to the south of us in Ohio, why our roads, and we have similar weather patterns, actually we're better weather than they are right now, it's snowing down there. Why is it that our roads are crumbling faster? And toll roads are not the answer, and only one of their roads is a toll road. But statewide, they have better roads. So maybe we should be looking at our friends in the other Great Lakes states to see how are they managing their transportation dollars and their infrastructure dollars, so that we can actually learn something from the other states that are around, and maybe we can start making those changes. So, because obviously what we're doing isn't working. So it's not just about more investment in the MDOT budget and the other budgets that relate to infrastructure. It's making sensible investment and maybe changing how we actually do things so that we are doing things better. In Germany, for example, when they redo a road, they don't have one side of the road open while the other side is closed for repairs. Now I know we're not in Germany, but they kind of have similar weather that we have. And everyone will gripe about having the entire road closed, having to go all the way around, but it's physics. You cannot have the road jiggling on one side from all the traffic going over it and expect the side that they just finished to set properly. So those are things that we really need to think about in terms of how we do what we do here.
I'm glad truck weights were brought up because that was actually my bill last term. And we have the highest truck weights in the nation. No one's even close to us. And the reason it didn't pass is because some of the up north Republicans were mad because they have logging businesses and stuff like that. So the Senate was never going to put that through on their hearing. I talked to many people around this district that own trucking yards. Well, yeah, they weren't happy with me, but after I talked to them, they figured it out. The thing is, it is about investing. And the reason I say that is because right now, we just dinged you with 20% registration fee increase on your birthday. It's called the birthday tax. We also increased the gas tax. And what are we getting for it? We are paying all this money and we get nothing. Our roads are terrible. So it's one of these things, if we're going to do that, we just voted in a plan that's going to take 5 years to fully go. Why all the roads that are getting fixed are in Republican districts, which does not make sense. The warranties are probably the hugest thing that we need to address today. Whoever we give this job to, and I'll give you an example, when they did 96, yes, I don't live by 96, and everybody wanted that job done fast. I get it. But do we want it fast so we can just put whatever materials we put in there and there's no warranties? So when something starts crumbling, some of it's crumbling now. They just did it a year and a half ago. That company's long gone. You cannot find them. So it's things that we need to hold them accountable. If we have to hold a bond or a deposit until 5 years, then we need to do that. Because I guarantee you, they will want to come and work for us. And they will do that bond. So we could talk about road funding all day. What we need to do is really put more money at the gas tax. And this will be my last thing I say on this. Because the seniors are the ones that are getting hit hard on this. They are getting a registration fee increase when they might be driving 2,000 or 3,000 miles. I put 25,000 miles a year and I'm paying the same registration as you are for ballpark. But at the gas pump, if I'm putting gas in my car, it's the actual user that's using the roads that should be paying for it. Thank you.
So going back a little bit about the road and actual the warranty on the roads. So that's something that's big. I think we really have to, like Bob said, we have to look at exactly what we're doing and who's actually going to be the contractors on these roads. Because right now, we're in Taylor, we had a road repaired, Goddard Road, one of the biggest roads in Taylor. We replaced it about 12 years ago. We're now replacing it again. And it's because the actual material that was used has failed. It's failed the city, and that's something that we don't have a warranty. The company that did it actually went bankrupt, and they're out of town. So I think we really got to look at exactly what we're doing with our roads, who's doing the roads, and in making sure we hold them all accountable. I want to take this conversation a little bit different too, because I know we were talking about infrastructure in general, but we also need to be looking at our lead pipelines and everything else in our water infrastructure. That's one of the biggest expenses this state's probably going to be looking at. The cities and townships cannot do it by themselves. I'll tell you what, we don't want to have a disaster that happened in Flint at any one of our communities or any one of our districts. And that's something that the state needs to take a really in-depth look at and making sure we're addressing not just road use, which is a big need here in the 12th district and right across all of the states. It tends not to be a big problem in a lot of Republican districts, but we have a lot of those issues, and we need to take a look at those water infrastructure issues at the same time as our road issues. So thank you.
So I agree that we need to visit the trucking industry, and I agree with Bob. So actually, when I was in college at Michigan State, I worked at a trucking company here in Romulus. The one is on E-course in between Middlebelt and Inkster. And when I studied the research regarding truck weights, what the opponent says that if we reduce the truck weights, then it's going to increase the number of trucks that are on the road, that will lead to more accidents. And so I don't know if we have any Spartans in here, but I went to Michigan State, and traveling like back and forth was so terrible because there was so many semi-trucks on the road. And so I think we need to look at just regulation as a whole of that industry, not just truck weights, but regulation of those drivers falling asleep, causing accidents. I've had clients within my firm, people who have been hit, lives devastated because truck drivers have fell asleep on the road. So I think that's something that needs to be revisiting. And also when you look at infrastructure, looking at, I believe Dave mentioned like energy. So I'm actually the attorney for a nonprofit downtown Detroit. It's called Reinvent Detroit, and they come up with green alternatives. And so we're starting downtown, but we're also expanding into the local communities. And so I think that's something that we need to visit as well to make our community operate more efficiently. Thank you.
I'd like to keep them here all day, but I'd like to open up a couple questions for the audience. We have time for probably two. Yep.
Well, I guess it can go to all. So 1 in 5 people have a mental illness, so when I count that room, that'd be about 8 of us. What are we going to do about our failing mental health system?
I go first.
Sure.
So I serve on that subcommittee, and it's one of the things all the Democrats are fighting for more funding. And it's pretty ridiculous when we have to have all these groups come in and testimony and beg for more money. The executive budget took so much money away from these budgets to people that really need the help. I don't know what their game plan is on this, but why in the world would the governor scratch all of this? The House plan just came out, well, it's not totally done, but I've seen part of it. And they're scratching things that people need to live day and day. And I'm not really sure why, but I think, like I said earlier, I think this coming year when we take over, I think you're going to see a total investment in trying to help people out, the people that really need help. Instead of disinfecting with them, we're going to invest big. And I really believe that. I think the new governor, I think Gretchen Whitmer, I'm going to say it, I think she's going to do one heck of a job.
We'll let Erica go next.
Again, we need a money shift. Here, there you go. Sorry, not having eye contact with you. Sorry. We need a shift in priorities. When we disinvested, when the state started closing facilities, when the state started disinvesting in mental health and treating it as though it is somehow different than any other form of healthcare, we did a disservice to our residents, we did a disservice to our state. We created other problems that are tangential to that. So when you don't have adequate funding for mental health care and mental health services, you have people self-medicating. And we wonder why we have an opioid crisis, and why we have other crises, why we have a homeless crisis. A lot of the people who are affected by this are affected because they are not getting the adequate mental health care that they need. And I think part of the issue, and you know, DHHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, I'll try not to use Lansing at alphabet soup, you know, they are incredibly overworked. We need to invest in them better so that the caseworkers can do the work that they need to do and service the residents better. And our community mental health services, so our CMSs, they also need the funding so that people can have access to the services that they need. And I think when we're talking about mental health overall, that this is something that every person in their lifetime, so you gave that statistic about, you know, it's about 20% of people have need for mental health services. Everybody at some point in their lifetime is going to have a situation occur where someone, if not themselves, someone very close to them, will also have need for mental health services. And it's something that we really have to stop ignoring and treating as though it's a horrible thing. We have to treat it as a reality and destigmatize it so that we actually are investing in it properly.
Alex?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the subject matters that I've done a lot of research around. You know, the mental health services and funding model in Michigan is simply broken. I mean, we've done so much over the years to remain in the same place that we've been today. So, you know, when we go to talk about the DHHS, which is, like you said, Department of Health and Human Services in Michigan, the caseworkers who are taking on cases and making sure that folks are getting the services they need, they have 1,000 cases each, and they're looking at how are they going to specifically give each and every person who comes to their office the direct service that they need when they have 999 other folks that they're trying to get the same services. So we need to look at the structure of how we are trickling out the mental health services in this state, because it's not working and many people are being affected from it. So we need to take a look at the DHHS structure, the Department of Health and Human Services structure, and how we are distributing those funds throughout to community health agencies and how we're putting them in DHHS and other agencies to make sure people are getting this direct and service they need, one-on-one service, because we're not seeing that, and it's failing in Michigan. We're seeing it across the state, not just here in the 12th district, but across the state. The funding mechanisms are broken, and we need to take a look at restructuring the whole system in general.
So from my perspective, what I see is a lot of those with mental health issues are in the jails, unfortunately. A couple years ago, I represented a client. It was a case that was on the news. It was a murder case out of Wayne, an unfortunate case with a defendant who was mentally ill. And we had to fight tooth and nail to get him into the forensic center because he was in the jail for months, and it was clear that he had some cognitive issues that he was dealing with. This, to me, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. A couple years ago, my mom passed, and I took over our family business, which is a group home business. So I've dealt with this population my entire life, mentally ill and developmentally delayed. I am a proponent of residential settings, because a lot of what we had before was more institutionalized. It was almost treating them like they were aliens or ostracizing them. And so I am not a proponent for that at all. I work with other group home owners, and we promote residential settings in proper treatment, because again, the jails are not the ideal place. They don't even properly give medication. Like, I will have clients who are in the forensic center and they get transferred to the jail to attend court. Jails don't give them their medication, and they lose their competency between the jail and the forensic center. And so there definitely is a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's an area that I've already had my hands and I'm already working. So thank you.
Yeah, increase specialty courts. I think we need to increase specialty courts.
No, I definitely think we need to increase the specialty court. So I don't know if you were here last year when Judge Thomas that came and she talked about
I
the
love
veterans.
her. I'm the chair of the Disability Caucus,
Okay.
so she's very involved with this.
Yes, you know, so we need more options like that. But oftentimes, if the attorneys, see, when it comes to defendants that are in the court system, it's incumbent upon the counsel to kind of advocate for those issues. And the problem is that a lot of times these clients are indigent. And so they're dealing with court-appointed counsel who it's a volume business. And so they're not really raising the issue. And so it needs to be addressed from multiple aspects, like not just one, within the court system as well, like having those specialty courts and diversions so they can identify it head on, so they're not even going into the jail, so there are proper treatment and facilities that they can be treated at.
All right, I apologize, I had to cut this a little short. Pat's on a time constraint, I didn't know that, so we're going to bring him up now. Thank everyone, give them a hand. Everyone didn't already know, this is AG candidate Pat Miles, great candidate sports.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Pat Miles. I'm running for Attorney General. I'm from Grand Rapids. I'm third generation there, and I grew up the son of a Grand Rapids public school teacher, a 30-year public school teacher, strong, proud member of the MEA, who's still active in MEA, retired. And I'm the grandson of farmers and auto workers. And I myself worked in a factory, a steel case furniture factory in Spotwell for 4 hot summers during college. I was fortunate enough to work after my hard work to get into Harvard Law School. Had a classmate named Barack Obama in law school. Played a little basketball with him. I know we're going to miss him as president. Don't we miss Barack Obama as president? Yes, we do. And then after law school, came back to get back to the state and city that I love. And then in 2012, I was recommended after an FBI vet, being fully vetted by the FBI, let me tell you, they really were scrutinizing me, that I was appointed on the recommendation of our 2 great senators, Carl Levin, who's endorsed my campaign for Attorney General, by the way, and by Debbie Stabenow, to be the United States Attorney for the Western District of Michigan. And as U.S. Attorney, I prosecuted all types of cases, federal cases, was able to lock up Larry Nassar. We were the first to get him off the streets. Larry Nassar, the sports doctor at Michigan State, we were able to get him on child pornography charges and lock him up. We were able to put away a lot of other corporate criminals and prosecute all sorts of corporate crime. I'm running for Attorney General because I'm tired of, it's been too long since we've had an Attorney General who stand up for the people, the working people of Michigan. It's been too long since we've had an Attorney General who stand up for the environment and fight the polluters, who will fight Betsy DeVos and the Donald Trump administration and fight back against them. We haven't had an Attorney General who will do that. We need to get on that train. I resigned as U.S. Attorney right at noon on Inauguration Day, right when Donald Trump became president, because I did not want to serve 1 minute in the Donald Trump administration. Not 1 minute. And you can see that he didn't believe in the rule of law. He doesn't believe in the rule of law, and he's a bully. And he's trying to roll back the Obama administration's policies on the environment. And we need to make sure that we stand for the environment. We got to protect our water here in Michigan. We talked about our waterways, our infrastructure, as well as our Great Lakes. We've got too much at stake to not take that value and make it whole. We do have to also battle the opioid and heroin crisis. I've looked through the eyes of a mother, Mary DeBoer, who lost a daughter who she never thought would be an intravenous heroin user. Her daughter was a high school cheerleader, was on the right track, but then had a boyfriend who had a football injury. He got hooked on prescription painkillers. And then she tried them out herself and got hooked on them herself, and they both became drug users and died of overdose deaths. So this is a terrible, terrible scourge. And so we need to have a program. We need to do what Indiana is doing. I can't believe that we're behind Indiana on this. But we need to do what Indiana is doing, which is have a fusion center where we take all the information at the state's disposal, the information from law enforcement, from first responders, from treatment providers, from hospitals, compile that information, analyze it, and then deploy resources immediately to battle these outbreaks of overdose deaths. That's going to cost money, but it shouldn't cost the taxpayers money. It should cost the pharmaceutical companies money that caused this problem in the first place. The pharmaceutical companies have been selling everybody a bill of goods on this, and we need to fight back on them and join those lawsuits. We need an Attorney General who's going to fight for the people and be prepared to fight for the people from day one. And I'm that candidate. After being U.S. Attorney, I've done this job. I'm ready to fight for the people. So with that, I will take some questions because I am on time constraint. I've got to get to Southfield.